Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining me. Let's spend a few minutes chatting about Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammett, which is a book that I recently finished reading. This book was published way back in 1929. I read a 1972 vintage books edition that I picked up at a used bookstore. I read The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett last year, a few months ago, and following that I knew I wanted to get some more of his stuff read, and so when I came across this in a used bookstore, I picked it up knowing that I would get to it sooner or later, and I'm so glad that I did because it was such fun to read. So this is mid-20th century American hard-boiled detective fiction, sort of at its finest, published, like I said, in 1929, so it's really got that era, that Prohibition era feel to it. I don't want to give anything away about this book because it's a book of intrigue. It's a detective story basically, so I don't want to give away too much around the plot that was going to detract from reading, but I'll give you sort of an outline of the basics of what it's about without divulging anything that would detract from the reading experience, because I certainly wouldn't want to do that. So our main character is a detective with the Continental Detective Agency. He goes unnamed throughout the book, but he is our detective, our hero, or should I say anti-hero of the novel. He's this detective. He comes to this city called Personville, but because of the lingo of the time, if you've watched any of the American movies from the 1930s, you might hear this accent where they say something like shirt, they would say shoit, or shoit, shoit for shirt. So person then would be poison. So poisonville. Poisonville's got a little play on words with the slang, with the accent of the characters of the time. So the name of this town is called Personville, but because of the accent, it actually sounds like Poisonville. Poisonville. So he spells it most of the time Poisonville. And because this town is a corrupt town. This town's got some serious issues going on. It's prohibition. It's run by kind of a big boss guy who runs the mining. It's in the west of the U.S. So Poisonville is a city with some issues. So our detective is brought to this city to do something for one of the characters named Don Wilson. Don Wilson is the son of the wealthy big boss that seems to own the whole town. He doesn't just own all the businesses in the town. He owns the judge, the police department, etc., etc. The other main characters is the boss's name is Elihu Wilson, and then there is a woman named Diane Brandt. I'll talk more about her in a bit. Diane Brandt, and then there's other sort of crime-ish figures that run different rackets in this town. I guess the main one that's mostly through the novel goes by the name of Whisper. So Whisper is because of the way his voice sounds. Everyone calls him Whisper. He kind of runs one gang. Then there's several others, and then just assorted other thugs and hoods and lowlifes in this city. There's not a lot of nice people in this city, it doesn't seem, or at least we don't get really introduced to them. So this detective who goes unnamed is brought to the city to perform a task for one of the main characters, Don Wilson, the son of the boss. Something happens. I'm not going to say what happens, but something happens to interrupt this process right off the bat, right when the novel first starts. This thing happens, and it turns into, this thing is a murder. This murder happens, and so the detective is drawn into that, enlisted sort of to get to the bottom of that. He gets to the bottom of this murder fairly quickly, and then the story takes another turn, because what has happened is these different, the boss, Elihu Wilson, and these other sort of figures in the town have really ticked him off, and so he decides to stick around and bring the whole racket down. And so he does that. So he sticks around and starts delving into this sort of underworld of this relatively smallish Western city, and that's sort of what the book is about. So I don't want to give away, like I mentioned, too much else about the plot, because the plot, it's not that big of a book, a couple hundred pages, and so it all takes place at a fairly, fast pace, and I don't want to give anything away. But so just some thoughts about the book, though. So this character of the detective, I love the fact that we don't know who he is. We know nothing about this guy. We don't even know his name. We don't know. We know he's from San Francisco office, but we don't know if he's actually from San Francisco because we don't know any of his backstory. He has no backstory. He's a blank slate. He's really just this sort of hero/anti-hero that comes to this town for work and then winds up on just a mission to on his own there. So I really thought that was really kind of cool. I kept thinking, did I miss his name somewhere? I actually looked back at one point to see if maybe I had missed his name. He does give some names, but he gives different names in different situations. So I don't think anybody in the town actually even knows actually who he is. He does report back to a rather stern boss back in San Francisco who keeps him on. He tries to keep him as ill-informed as he possibly can because he's kind of gone off on his own. He's kind of gone rogue out there trying to bring down these criminal rackets. So these criminal rackets, the gambling, a lot of bootlegging, because this book was written in 1929, so it takes place during the American Prohibition era, and so this running gin and whatnot seems to be a way that a lot of this underworld earns their daily bread. So so Diane Brandt, I wanted to mention this character because Diane Brandt she's not a good girl gone bad, she's a bad girl gone worse. She's quite a character. She's a woman who has figured out how to manipulate men, particularly into getting what you're making her living this way. She's not a prostitute or anything like that. She's just manipulative, and she's involved. She's sort of a thread that ties a lot of these figures together because she's got a way about her that she can sort of get on the good side of people, or men particularly, and she can make money out of them. She makes money through information, and it's a dangerous game she plays, but she's very skilled at it, and she was really quite a character. Her dialogue. So the dialogue is one of the reasons why I like these kind of mid-20th century hardboiled detective works of fiction, is because of the dialogue. So the dialogue of that era and that sort of slang is just a delight to read. I experienced that with the Maltese Falcon as well. So it's just a lot of fun with this lingo. But Diane Brandt really throws it around. She really knows how to kind of go after her niche of any kind of thing that's going on to sort of make a buck out of it, and she's really good at it. So she's really a great character. There's a couple of other female characters in it that don't quite have her skill, but I think Diane Brandt. I think when I was reading this book, I was thinking, what an awesome book it would have been to have a Diane Brandt be the detective, or be like the main character instead of a side character, because she was just such a kind of a cool character to get involved with there for a while. So right, so I think that's all I wanted to say about this book. I just enjoyed it so much. It will not be the last of the Dashiell Hammett novels that I read. Actually, I found another used paperback of another one. It's escaping me which one it is. I think it's Glass Key. Yeah, The Glass Key. I own that one. I bought that one too. So I'll read that one in an upcoming and have an upcoming chat on that at some point in the future when I get around to reading it. So my next chat, I'm going to love doing this one. I love this book so much. This book really kind of blew me away. Seeing Through the World, Jean Gebser and Integral Consciousnesses by Jeremy Johnson. This is a book that I discovered in sort of my random YouTube surfing. I discovered this concept, this idea, as well as this author, some talks that this author did, and I decided to pick up this book, and it's really kind of been very cool. So I'll have a chat on this coming up in the very near future. So until next time, take care. Bye.